This meeting is back, and we have with us today Mr. Juan Santos. John, before you answer any of the questions, I'm going to swear you in, and then you state for the record your name, your title, and the agency you represent. So with that, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may lower your right hand. And of course, you've already been informed. If you're going to respond, just press the button, the light will show up. And if not, when you finish, you can turn it off. Would you please state your name, your title or your position, and the agency you represent?
My name is Juan M. Santos. I'm the Chief Investigator for the Office of the Public Auditor.
Thank you, John. John, as we have done with all the other witnesses, before I give the members a chance to ask you any questions, and I do know that we have the report, we have your report to the OPA regarding the airport incident. Your report is rather lengthy, and I want to ask the members, would you like to have John kind of recall what had happened and his involvement, or since you have the report in front of you, you can read it and just go directly to questioning? Any comments or preferences? Representative Sablan.
Chairman, I think we still got some other witnesses lined up for the rest of the afternoon. You know, we've received the report. I think we should to cut down on time. I think we should just go ahead and go to the question part of the testimony.
No objections? Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Santos, for being here. Any other members want to start? Representative De La Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Santos, good afternoon, and thank you for coming. This is not with regards to the report, but I just wanted to hear from you and get some clarification. Is it standard practice for the Office of OPA to serve penal summons as ordered by the CNMI courts?
This would be the first time for our office to actually serve penal summon by our office.
In other words, attempt to serve.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. My understanding is that normally when a penal summons is ordered by the CNMI courts, it would be forwarded to DPS to serve such an order. In this case, I wanted to hear from you whether this is something that is out of the ordinary, if you will. Do you know if the court had requested DPS to serve such penal summons?
No. What happened here is our legal counsel filed the information, and then in turn he received the penal summons to be served to the Attorney General, and from there we were tasked to execute the service of this penal summons to the Attorney General.
Okay, so in other words, you're not aware of whether the courts had called up DPS to serve such a summons.
No knowledge on that.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. I'll yield for now, Chairman.
If I may, just kind of carry on from there. Mr. Santos, from your report, it starts off with your office trying to locate Mr. Buckingham. Your report shows that you were aware of the vehicle and the license plate that Mr. Buckingham was using, and that in the afternoon of August 3rd, Mr. Buckingham was at Capitol Hill, and then later on you found the vehicle at the Aquarius Hotel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
One of the interesting things in your report was that you witnessed the vehicle being driven by someone other than Mr. Buckingham, someone in civilian clothes, and then I believe subsequently you had notified the Department of Public Safety, and 2 uniformed police officers came and had observed this vehicle, Mr. Buckingham's vehicle, leaving and being driven by someone other than Mr. Buckingham. And your report later identified the individual as a off-duty DPS personnel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the name of this detective, I believe he was a detective, was the operator of that vehicle was Mr. Alex Sakisa?
That's correct.
Can I ask you, were you able to talk to Mr. Sakisa, or Detective Sakisa rather, and ask what he was doing there?
In the beginning, when we were over at the Aquarius Beach Hotel parking lot, I did observe that particular individual who was driving that Buckingham's vehicle, but I have no knowledge as to his name. Only after that, the officer put over the vehicle and identified the driver as the off-duty detective. Accordingly to these officers, is that he was asked to help the mom who used to work with the AG's wife, Pam, to help them with the transporting of their luggage and to pick him up at a later time. It was police officer Peter Camacho that identified the driver, and then later on providing me that name for the record.
Thank you. And so Detective Sakisa may have just been on his own time helping out his mom, to help out his mom's friend, I guess, no? It didn't appear that he was there officially.
I don't know, but he was there since the time we were at the parking lot to the transportation of the luggage, where the officer had put him over and identified him.
Okay, further, one of the important elements of this that has to be cleared is whether DPS knew that a penal summons was to be served to Mr. Buckingham. So Can you please explain to us how DPS was made aware that a penal summons had to be served? I think your report states that you requested assistance from DPS. Can you just expound on that, please?
We requested police assistance to assist us on the servicing of the penal summons to the AG. The officers responded to our request, and I briefed them of the penal summons to be served to the AG. I provided them a copy of the penal summons, in which they proceeded over to the lobby area where they met with the front desk clerks. They then returned back to me, and they indicated that they were denied access to go up to the floor and execute the service of the penal summons. So yes, the officers are fully aware that there is a penal summons to be served to the Attorney General.
I believe in the report also there was, so we have Officer, was it Peter Camacho? And another officer. Who was his partner?
We have Officer Peter Camacho, Stanley Patrice, and Myron Kaipat.
Those were the three individuals that came to assist you in serving the summons. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was provided by DPS with Officer Camacho and Officer Patrice, and eventually Officer Myron Kaipat or Lanizo showed up and assisted the other officers.
Thank you. Mr. Santos, can you also touch on the paragraph in your report where your partner attempted to, or rather, at some point, I believe it was after 7 p.m., you were at the parking lot 7:30. When you returned to the parking lot of Aquarius, excuse me, where the officers were informed to inform you and your partner to cease and desist the serving of the summons. Can you please explain what happened there?
Okay, after I briefed the officers to assist us to serve the penal summons to the AG at the Aquarius lobby, they then returned back, and they were instructed by DPS Central Dispatcher that to cease to back off from helping OPA from executing its penal summon, and not to assist OPA, and to inform my partner, Juan David Atalik, to cease, or else she would be arrested. And that was coming from an instruction from 01, which is Ambrosio Gomoro.
And I believe that's stated in your report.
That's correct.
And let me just read it. It says, as we were driving up the airport, Officer Camacho called Juanet, that's your partner, correct? And said that he just received an instruction from Central. This instruction were coming from 01, that is the Deputy Commissioner Ambrosio Ogomro, that they, DPS, are to back off from this operation and not to assist OPA, and further instruct him to inform Juanet to cease their operation, or DPS will initiate arrest on her. That's
correct.
Thank you. I will yield for now. Any other members? Representative De La Cruz.
Chair, just to clarify, I've read the report and I was just reading it, and just for clarification purposes, the individual, Mr. Alex Sakisat, it states here that it is Mr. Sakisat's wife who works with Buckingham's wife and not the mother. Am I correct?
If it's in the statement, sir, that's correct. It's the wife and not the mother.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
While the members are still considering their questions, can I now move over to the airport, or rather, let me, in your report, I've seen you have made many attempts to serve the penal summons. I think the first attempt was personally, where you went up to the room and tried to present it, but they refused. That would be the first one. The second one was when you attempted to ask the front desk to serve it for you, but I think they did not, they didn't agree to be the one to serve it to them personally. And then you attempted to provide it to CPA, the Ports Police, is that correct?
That's correct.
That would be the third. And I was looking at your report that it says after 8 p.m. I provided a copy of the penal summons to Sergeant C.T. Regis. Sergeant Regis said that he will provide copies to the airline counters so that in the event that Buckingham's checked in, the airline will notify Ports Police, and from there they, meaning Ports Police, will serve the summon to Buckingham. What happened after that? Was the summons served to Mr. Buckingham by the Ports Police?
Okay, I think we made more than 3 attempts to serve the summon. In the first one, me and my partner tried to serve the penal summon to Buckingham on the 10th floor. We were not able to serve that, and they refused the service. The second is providing the penal summon to the front desk, in which they accepted, but then it will be served if Buckingham is to check out from the hotel. The third one is I seek the police assistance to serve the penal summon, in which again they were denied access to serve this penal summon. And then the fourth one would be providing the penal summon to Ports Police, in which it never served. The penal summon was never served by CPA.
And then the fifth one was when it was served, and that was by the FBI, correct?
And the fifth one is by the assistance of the feds to eventually effectuate the penal summon to Buckingham.
I want to read a part of your a paragraph here, just so you can explain to us why or how is it that CPA did not issue the summons. We know why DPS didn't serve the summons, and that's because they were instructed not to. On page 4 of your report, it says, second paragraph, at the Ports Police Office, we, Special Agent Park, Special Agent Prida, Juanet, Ports Police Officer, Policeman M. Guerrero, and I then were looking out from the office window, making our observation from the inside. While at the office, I asked M. Guerrero if any information was relayed by the outgoing shift of Sergeant Regis regarding the penal summon, and he said nothing. And I asked Captain John Rubena, because he's the supervisor. Juanet then asked if Ambrosio had signed out any pass, and M. Guerrero said that Ambrosio had been issued a pass and can access anywhere with his card. I reviewed the log sheet for the pass at the office, and Ambrosio's name was not on the log sheet. Special Agent Park's pass had expired and could not access the secured area, I guess, from the Ports Police Office, and likewise for Special Agent Prida. His pass was declined by the secured door. Special Agent Park asked M. Guerrero several times for assistance to get into the back entrance from the office, but the request was delayed by Captain John. Captain John is the last name?
Captain John Rebueno.
Oh, okay. Was delayed by Captain John Rebueno, and even asked for another officer to get them access when Captain John Rebueno answered his radio and said that he's using the restroom. Special Agent Park asked for his cell number, but instead Captain John asked for the agent's number, which was provided to him, but he never called. After 30 minutes of waiting, the two special agents left the Ports Police at 4:28 and proceeded to the screening area to gain access. I think what is evident in your report regarding the Ports Police is that you did submit a request or make a request to the Sergeant C.T. Regis, I believe, earlier, during the earlier shift, to serve the summons. I think what happened, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is after that shift, during the early morning hours, another shift came in. It appears, based on your report, that the shift coming in was not informed that a summons was to be served to Mr. Buckingham. Is that kind of what happened? Or what you feel happened?
Yes. I did inform Sergeant C.T. Regis about the penal summon. The delay basically is coming from the captain himself. After 30 minutes of waiting, the agents proceeded to the screening area, and that's basically what you mentioned earlier is exactly what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Recognize Representative Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Santos, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been working for OPA?
This would be my 4th year with OPA.
And prior to your position at OPA, where did you work?
I've been a police officer for 18 years.
An officer for 18 years.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that this was OPA's first attempt to serve a penal summons. Is that correct?
To my knowledge,
Actually serve.
yes.
Has the office ever served any other summons that you know of?
There are other summons that the the office is involved with other agencies that were allowed to execute this summons to other agencies.
And I'm assuming that you're referencing law enforcement agencies.
Meaning our counterparts, the feds, where we work together, and whenever they issue the summons, we executed the summons to the agency.
Your personal knowledge, what agencies have cooperated with OPA in the service of penal summons or any summons?
That cooperated with OPA?
Yeah. Or assisted the office in serving the summons?
Our office, I mean, we cooperate with almost everybody. It's only this.
A quick list, a short list. Has DPS been one of them? If you're not aware, we can try to get the information.
We did executed services during the local task force with combined law enforcement with OPA, where we executed a summons. Yes.
So is it fair to say, in your experience, both as a police officer and as an OPA investigator, that there's generally been an established cooperation between law enforcement officers in the service of summons?
Yes.
Okay. In this situation, or in this incident, included in the report are two, and maybe I can cite them to, and I think it brings out the concern in regards to what transpired in regards to trying to do the service of, to carry out the service of the summons. And let me quote in your report in regards to this, I read, Buckingham's had contacted the governor because, and this is somebody talking, but this was an officer who's assuming that the instruction was coming from 01. And the officer said he disagreed with the decision of 01 and said, I don't understand, Ambrose, in close parentheses 01, we're supposed to help each other. We told the officer that we appreciate his help and assistance given to us, and I think you mentioned that earlier. Later on in your report, we have an officer, a CPA officer, and says, came into the office and said, man, I don't want to have problem with H, referring SAH Park, Special Agent Park. This is like alert level 3. I guess what I'm trying to get through here is in your 18 years, 4 years as total 22 years of law enforcement agency work, it's common knowledge in regards to the cooperation of law enforcement agencies. And these two law enforcement officers who are placed in this situation, in their short comments, really questioned what was going on that evening or that early morning. That law enforcement officers who are sworn to uphold the law are being instructed to ignore the law. And this is why we are looking at this incident. To have two officers, field officers in the field, come up with a statement like this shows you that they have concern for what was going on. And personally, a former law enforcement officer, I know where they're coming from. But it is unfortunate that officers like these two, who are on the spot, knew that that what was going on was not right, because it's contrary to what they were sworn to do, and which is to protect and enforce the law. Mr. Santos, in the time frame that you first attempted, and you mentioned 4 times, what's the time lapse between your first effort and when the special agents finally were able to serve the penal summons?
Of my 22 years of service in the law enforcement, Mr. or Congressman Sablon, this is my first time to experience another law enforcement officer going the opposite. Instead of trying to assist a fellow law enforcement to execute a summon, a penal summon, and not an arrest warrant, but a penal summon. And it appears that high-ranking officers are really much involved with trying to evade the service of this penal summon to Buckingham. And for the Captain Orwene to be, who said that directly to me about this is like level 3. I mean, it came from him, and I was just wondering, because it's basically after seeing the video, I mean, it's just the opposite of what we're trying to actually accomplish during that period. But so it took us about 12 hours, from 3 in the afternoon to 4, almost 5, to execute the search warrant. I mean, not the search warrant, but the penal summon.
Thank you, Mr. Santos, for your time and your testimony. Mr. Chairman, are you?
Thank you. I wanted to show the members that there is also, in addition to the report from the OPA, there's also a statement from a police officer 3, Mr. Juan Mendiola, who was, I believe, the officer in charge, and his statement also corroborates the information that Mr. Santos is saying, and basically that he was the dispatcher who sent officers Camacho, Patrice, and Lanizo to proceed to Aquarius to meet with Miss Juanette and assist her in serving the document. And it also states that at about 2015, which is about 8:15 p.m., it says, I was at DPS front desk when I overheard Deputy Commissioner Ambrosio Gomro via police radio informing the dispatcher to have the supervisor call him ASAP. Within a few minutes, I called him via cellular phone. He was inquiring as to what's going on at the Aquarius Beach Tower. I told him that our police officers were assisting Ms. Juanette Adda from OPA to serve a document, possible an arrest warrant. He asked me, who told you to send the officers there? I told him that Officer Eric David called earlier and asked me if I could send a police officer to assist his sister to serve a document. Mr. Gomro told me to find out the name of who they are going to serve and to call him right away. I called Officer Peter Camacho and asked him as to who the person they're looking for. He told me, Ed Buckingham. I called Deputy Commissioner Ambrosio Gomro back and told him that it's Ed Buckingham. He instructed me, tell the officers to pull out, and I want you to tell Juanette to cease her operation or we will arrest her. So we have a sworn affidavit from the officer in charge, again, that corroborates or confirms OPA's report. Any of the other members want to ask any further questions? And if members do not have a copy of this report, I think all of you have it in your package. If there are no further questions, members, I am going to okay, we have a question from Representative Guerrero.
Yeah, hello. Officer Santos, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. When you couldn't, from your words, you couldn't get the cooperation of DPS or the Ports Police in serving the penal summons, right? That's
The request that I made to DPS and CPA, the officers cooperated with our request.
Mm.
It's just that they were receiving instruction from upper level, telling them not to assist. On DPS side, there was an instruction that relates down to the officers trying to assist us to back off from helping OPA, or they will initiate an arrest on my partner. On CPA, we did request their assistance. They cooperated as usual. We've been providing penal summon or other form of summons to CPA, and they've been executing those summons upon our request. It was only on this particular summon, on this particular date, that was basically the summon was not served.
okay. Then, how did you get the? Was it OPA that asked the FBI to serve the summons?
We coordinated our office, and I believe I would defer on that question to George Hasselberg, because George is basically the OPA officer that coordinated this with the feds to assist.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions from the members? If not, I have a few, or one or two more. Mr. Santos, towards the end of your report, and this relates to your communication with the FBI agents. In your report, Special Agent Park, after being served with the penal summons by, after serving Mr. Buckingham with the penal summons, states that Buckingham's biggest concern is whether he can still fly / leave this morning. He was concerned whether he can still depart on his scheduled flight. It says here that Special Agent Park reminded him that he has a summon served to him and that he has to appear on Monday, August 6 before 9 a.m. And Buckingham said to him, "I am under direct orders to make sure that I get on that flight." And it also says that Special Agent Park said that he'll be providing OPA with a copy of his report. But I just wanted to ask what that means. What that means, I am under direct orders to make sure that I get on this flight. Did you, during your conversation, get some kind of information why he had to depart and who gave him this direct orders?
That's what basically SA Park relayed to me. Who gave the direct orders could only come from someone delegating the AG.
Thank you. I hope that we can get a copy of Special Agent Park's report and also be able to interview him. But this is very interesting. We all understand that the highest law enforcement official only reports to one person, and that is the governor. But we should get some kind of confirmation regarding this statement. Also, on page 3, Officer Camacho, it says that Officer Camacho then called via cell phone and said that he was instructed by Detective Sarah Lu to back down on assisting OPA with their operation. Officer Camacho believes that 01 was giving all this instruction, because it may be that the Buckinghams have already informed the governor and that these instructions were coming from the top. Mr. Santos, was this the, you probably inferred from what information you were being given that this was coming from high up. What could have led you to believe that this instruction could have come from the very top?
That's what basically what the officer had relayed to me, and the only person that can give that instruction to the deputy director or deputy commissioner for DPS would be the governor. That's the only higher ups that I can assume that it's coming from him.
Thank you, Mr. And perhaps this committee may want to take a look at the officers we are subpoenaing, because I don't think Mr. Camacho is on our list of people or witnesses to subpoena. And maybe at some point I would like to entertain a request to issue more subpoenas so we can get direct statements from the individuals who had active participation. I believe Representative Sablon had raised his hand. Okay. Any other members before I dismiss Mr. Santos? If not, I want to thank you, Mr. Santos, for upholding the law and for doing what you took an oath to do. And I also want to thank you for your cooperation. You are dismissed. I do ask that you provide our Sergeant at Arms with your contact number, and you may be possibly asked to come back and answer further questions. Thank you again for your cooperation. You're hereby dismissed for now.
Thank you, sir.